It is the Bark Tank. It is presented by Sugardale, and we are down to the final 53. Welcome, friends, from the home office. My name is Andrew Siciliano. After the Browns wrap up their first perfect preseason, 3-0 for the first time since 2021. They're coming off a playoff season, obviously, and a playoff victory in Pittsburgh in 2020. As we sit here, as we record this edition of the Bark Tank, the Browns have just cut their roster down to 53. We'll get to some names or some news off that list in a second. But let's go back to Monday evening, where shortly before 9 o'clock, the Browns decided they weren't going to keep 4 quarterbacks. They were going to keep 3. Kenny Pickett was traded to the Raiders, to Vegas, in exchange for a 5th-round pick. I actually think, and I said this and posted this on social right after the trade, that it's a win-win for both teams. Let's start with the Browns. They had said all along, and they meant it, that they were totally fine keeping 4 quarterbacks. Andrew Berry reiterated that to both Chris Rose and Joe Thomas, friends of the program, doing the News 5 TV broadcast during the game Saturday, that he viewed it, the team viewed it, as an opportunity, not as a burden, and I'm paraphrasing here. But when Aiden O'Connell later on that evening broke his wrist and the Raiders find out that he's out 2 months, and Pete Carroll says that we need an experienced veteran, and Kenny Pickett is that, 25 career starts, then if you could get back the 5th-round pick that you gave up to Philadelphia, why not do it? I really do think that Kenny Pickett had a legit, you might even say likely shot to win the starting job, but it didn't matter. That competition never developed because he injured his hamstring. It's unfortunate for Kenny. I truly, truly wish he had that opportunity, but I think this is a good opportunity for him as well in Vegas, backing up Geno Smith. Look at it from this perspective as well. The Browns traded Dorian Thompson-Robinson and a 5th-round pick to Philadelphia in exchange for Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett now moves to Vegas. In essence, you're trading DTR, who the Eagles waived, for a 5th-round pick. And remember, a few years ago, DTR was taken out of UCLA as a 5th-round pick. So you recoup that 5th-round pick that you used on DTR, and you get that in 2026. It's a push. It's a wash, and it's a win there for the Browns. Now, people say, well, I thought you were going to keep 4. Well, it is easier to keep 3, isn't it? Especially with uncertainty at running back and injuries at linebacker and questions in the secondary. It's a lot easier when you have that extra roster spot. And so with that, it's easier, and you move on and you get the 5th-round pick. Okay, so there's the Kenny Pickett situation. Meantime, as for the roster, there were some surprising moves. I think some of those surprising moves are going to come back and join the practice squad. So by the time you watch this, it's not worth going through each and every one of those moves. But what stood out to me, a couple of things. Number one, Mike Hall passed his physical. We haven't seen Mike Hall on the field since week 18 last year, when the 2nd-round pick, the defensive tackle, who I thought was an ascending player and playing well at that point, injured his knee on that horrible cold afternoon in Baltimore. Mike Hall's not on injured reserve. He's not on any list. He's passed his physical. Now, I don't know when he's going to be on the field. That right now seems uncertain. Kevin Stefanski wouldn't shed much light on it after practice on Tuesday. But the idea that he's not on the shelf automatically for the first 4 weeks is a positive sign. It is a blow that Winston Reed has to go on injured reserve, but the Browns designate him to return. So he is out just the first 4 games. Fingers crossed. And the Browns also make a move. They make a trade. Other than Kenny Pickett, they give up a 7th-round pick to L.A. to bring in KT Leviston, who's an offensive lineman that they saw play for the Rams against the Browns on Saturday. He actually started in that game at left tackle. He's going to be wearing 72 and was on the practice field on Tuesday. He was a 7th-round pick last year for the Rams. They really liked him in the preseason, and he made the team, but he was on IR. He had an ankle injury. They brought him back and he practiced late in the year, but they never activated him. The Rams, they would have, but they needed that roster spot. They were up against it in terms of the number of players that they were allowed to bring back, and they eventually decided Leviston was not going to be one of those guys. But listen, you need a solid backup here, or you need an extra body. He's more of a road grader stylistically here. He's a mauler, but with Cornelius Lucas nursing the ankle injury, which he suffered week 2 against Philadelphia in the preseason, this is a solid depth move. Also notable on cutdown day, the Browns released Dustin Hopkins. As good as his 2023 was, we all saw what happened in 2024. He missed a couple of extra points in the preseason, and there was also, candidly, an extra point in Carolina, and we called it as we saw it at the moment. That was called good. That honestly didn't necessarily look good on the replay. So much so, as they went to the TV timeout, the officials that night in Charlotte were gathering there on the sideline in front of the Carolina bench discussing if there's something we can do about it, but in the end, whatever. They said the kick was good, and maybe it was, but regardless. So Dustin Hopkins was phenomenal in 2023. We all love the guy, and I am confident that Dustin Hopkins is going to figure out, get another shot, and still be the weapon that we saw him to be back in 2023, where 50-yard bombs were easy. I mean, they were automatic practically. Unfortunately, that guy was not the guy that we saw last year, and this year, the Browns are going to roll with a guy named Andre Szmyt, who didn't get a chance to kick in the preseason or at all in the NFL. He had been with the Bears, but wasn't able to make a kick or even try a kick in a game. He finally got that opportunity 2 weeks ago in Philadelphia, and now he is the guy. It is a pleasure to have the Browns' new kicker in the Bark Tank. He was here a little bit last year and then won the job at the end of training camp and is on the final 53. Andre Szmyt, congratulations, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
How'd they break the news to you?
Honestly, it was out at practice, so I had a kind of a good idea, but, AB and a bunch of other people came up to me. I figured I had a good idea when I was at practice and at the workout that I was like, okay, I guess I'm the guy.
This is so wild. So for those who don't know the timeline, you guys took the field at 3 o'clock roughly, and the cut down is 4 o'clock officially. So you're sitting here, I'm assuming, going wait a minute, they haven't told me anything yet, so I guess I'm putting my uniform on, and I guess I'm going out there?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's pretty much sums up how it went.
Did you keep looking over your shoulder? Is AB coming out of the building?
No, I think it was out at practice.
Okay.
When I was hitting a little field goal set during practice, and he came up to me, said some good words, and yeah, I was excited.
That's amazing, and everybody was excited as well when you hit the game winner this past Saturday, and the Browns go to 3-0 in the preseason for the first time in 4 years. I know you kind of had an idea that it would be your second half, and that you get a chance to kick there after the Rams took the lead. And it became apparent that if Snoop could get the Browns into field goal position, that you would have this opportunity. Are you thinking, hey, this is my shot, this is my dream, I can make this kick and make the team?
I didn't think about it in such detail, but we kind of joked around with the other specialists. We kind of keep things light, and we're like, hey, this could come down to a game winner. So I have my process. Obviously, I'm in the net warming up, seeing how the drive's playing out. And then when it was time to call my number to go out there and kick, we went out there, Rex threw a perfect ball, Corey a perfect hold, and then, we just made the kick.
Andre, reflect on the journey if you could. And I know probably when you go home later tonight or maybe after that first game on September 7th against the Bengals, you have more time to breathe and process. But for those who don't know, you were a soccer player growing up in suburban Chicago, right down the street from Hallis Hall where the Bears train. And you didn't even really try football, correct me if I'm wrong, until you were a junior in high school?
Yeah. So I think the first ball I ever kicked was when I was a freshman, but I don't think I kicked the football again till junior year of high school when I was like, hey, maybe I could do this. And I always liked playing in front of fans and stuff. And that was always my dream, was to be a professional soccer player, professional athlete in general, and just playing those big stadiums. And obviously football games had more fans than the soccer games. So I was like, I'll give it a shot my senior year. And yeah, so I did. And mean, there's much more to the story if we want to unravel it, but.
Well, let's do it. I mean, Vernon Hills High School, and then you ended up at Syracuse, and then in 2018, you win. I love the symmetry here. You win the Lou Groza Award.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, now you're getting a paycheck at 76 Lou Groza Boulevard. That's another part of the story here. But like, bam, you burst onto the scene. A guy who at that point in 2018, you'd only been kicking a football 2-3 years.
Yeah. So I actually walked on to Syracuse, and then I redshirted my first year. And that first year playing, that's when we won the Lou Groza. And yeah, it's been a journey since. Spent 6 years in Syracuse, and then was with Chicago back home, right down the street from where I grew up, obviously Hallis Hall, for training camp, OTAs and training camp, and then was released. Ended up playing in the UFL last spring, and then just had a slew of workouts last year that led to workout here. And then obviously practice squad, and then signing futures and having a chance to come and compete.
Andre, I want to go back to your summer 2 years ago with the Bears. Correct me if I'm wrong. You never got a chance to kick during a game, right?
That's correct. I was released before the first preseason game.
So here you are. You could basically, I mean, no one wants to ride their bike on Town Line Road, but you could basically ride your bike to Hallis Hall from your house, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You get it. You get signed by the Bears, but you never got a chance to kick. I would have to imagine like that's a gut punch.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bummer for sure. Obviously, you want to, even if you're not the guy, you want to get preseason tape, and that means so much. And I ended up actually not having any workouts that year, and I feel like kind of my talents went unnoticed. So I was blessed to receive an opportunity to play in the UFL, or compete, I should say, for a job in the UFL. Because that led to obviously all this, and I mean, I couldn't be more grateful.
Yeah, and you seized that opportunity. You hit a 61-yarder, which is a career high at any level. For the St. Louis Battlehawks, juggernaut as they were. You did that, it should be noted, Andre, outdoors, right? That was a 61-yard kick outdoors in Birmingham?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and then you also had to dig this up as the SU guy here. You hit a 54-yarder in 2018 on the road at Pitt at Heinz Field, what was then Heinz Field, now Acrisure, right?
Yeah.
So in the Steelers building, a 54-yarder in the rain.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. That's good. That's good fact checking.
There you go. Had to look that up. So my point is, I know people go, you kicked indoors. You have plenty of experience kicking outdoors in the elements as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. I think a lot of people are like, oh, you come from Syracuse, how is it playing in a dome? But I mean, honestly, like, I think kicking outside has another element to it where you have the wind that's kind of, you have something to play the ball with. Or
so
the
that's
wind
a good
is gonna
thing?
Some people, I'm not the only one who thinks this, but I think playing outside, the wind, you have an idea of where you want to play and what's going to happen to the ball. Where indoors, you like are really reliant on like, hey, you hit this ball, you hit a little bit of a pull, like you're going to pull it. But if it's going left to right wind, you hit a little bit of a pull, it kind of helps you out because you have that wind coming across, helping it. So it's kind of diving pretty deep into it, but I kind of like it because it's like in golf. I feel like if you have an idea, hey, I'm going to play this left side of like the bunker, it's going to draw or fade back into the middle of the green. So
no, it's an interesting conversation. Everyone's got their own thing, and yeah, it's very much like golf. And when you have your swing, you have it. When you lose it, and then it's you're standing on top of that ball, going, all right, what am I doing here? Obviously, you never want to get to that spot, but every kicker has experienced that. I'm sure at one point you kicked outside in Philly week 2, and obviously you kicked at Huntington Bank Field a couple of days ago. Between now and the opener, are you going to go down there and try to get some work in and look at Phil Dawson's flag and all that to try to get a better feel for the place?
Yeah, we actually talked about it. I think we'll get down there hopefully sometime like later this week or early next week, and just get a proper experience there. I think obviously I had the warm up there, but Corey's doing his own thing, and I'm like, hey, what's the wind playing? How does it usually go? And like I kind of had a good idea, but to really talk it out and see and feel it out and hit some balls and just see what happens to it and just how the wind plays it. I think will be really useful.
Yeah, like some time on the driving range, to use the golf analogy, before you actually get out there and have to play the round.
Exactly.
With all that said, there's always a personal element, the personal element for you, and also the personal element for Dustin Hopkins. You guys, kickers, are a tight fraternity, really all special teams players, but kickers especially. You mentioned tryouts last year. Like, there's been great stories written about, all the kickers almost showing up at the same place. Whenever someone needs a tryout, you guys all show up together. You guys all know each other. Have you had a chance to talk to Dustin about, obviously, what's good news for him, but good news for you, but bad news for him?
Yeah, we had such a great relationship with each other, all OTAs and training camp, and even last year, like for the 1 week I spent here. And he's always supported me. I've always supported him, and we've always bounced ideas off each other and stuff in practice, and even the game. Hey, how's the wind playing? How's this? And we're always helping each other out. And I got to catch him in the locker room, thankfully, and we said a couple of words to each other, and it was all positive. All, hey, I'm rooting for you. I wish nothing for the best. I wish nothing but the best for him and his future.
Yeah, I have no doubt that he will rise again. He will find a spot somewhere else, and he will be kicking and kicking well again. Finally, last one here, Andre, before we let you go. Growing up in Chicago, I assume Robbie Gould is probably gone with the Niners by that point. I'm not sure. Did you have a kicking hero, someone you looked up to, someone you wanted to be when you decided, hey, the heck with soccer, I want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, Robbie Gould was definitely one of those guys. I mean, he was definitely like a touch kicker, and in those windy places, I mean, you see success with that. And one guy, recent history, Cairo, who was in Chicago, I mean, we have a great relationship too, talking about the fraternity. And he helped me a lot when I was in Chicago, just with the wind and how to play it and everything. And he's obviously had a ton of success in Chicago. So, and we still keep in contact, and he's definitely helped me a lot too. And that's somebody I look up to currently in the league.
Awesome. And I'm sure other kickers, young kickers now, can look up to you. Andre Szmyt, the new kicker of the Cleveland Browns, on the final 53 and set for week 1 against the Bengals on September 7th. Andre, congratulations again. See you at the stadium.
Thank you. Sounds good. See you there.
And I just want to say for the record here, because this has been a thing between Nathan Segura, obviously, and the great Gibbe, Jason Gibbs, about how often I talk about Syracuse in general. I didn't bring it up, by the way, during the game on Saturday. This is Andre Szmyt going to hit the game winner, and he did. I didn't bring it up, but it's good to have him. And I'll just leave it at that. Okay? Good. Let's go around the league. All right, what's sizzling around the league? This is presented to you by Sugardale. Let's roll through the AFC North. Browns get the Bengals week 1 at Huntington Bank Field, and they are, get ready, they are going to face Trey Hendrickson, who worked out a deal on Monday. Not an extension, not a new contract. The Bengals just made him feel better with $14 extra million. So he went from 16 up to 30, and the man who cumulatively has led the NFL in sacks the last 2 years with 57 is going to make $30 million a year. Now, there's no guarantee the Bengals won't put the franchise tag on him next year, but if you look at it right now, it's likely cost prohibitive. So in all likelihood, Trey Hendrickson will hit free agency in 2026. But more importantly, for the interests of this conversation, he will be there week 1 at Huntington Bank Field. Meantime, in Pittsburgh, the former Buckeye quarterback Will Howard is going to open the season on injured reserve, which means he is out for at least 4 weeks. So the Browns will not face him. Granted, they'll face Aaron Rodgers potentially week 6, but Will Howard could potentially be back on the active roster by that point. And speaking of Buckeyes, Trey Sermon among the Steelers cut at the deadline on Tuesday, the former Ohio State back, and Beanie Bishop, who had a really nice rookie season last year in the secondary, also released. And in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson is fine. John Harbaugh said that after the scare last week, the quarterback is back on the practice field, and he will be good to go against the Bills. How about that for a week 1 game coming up next week? That's going to do it for this edition of Bark Tank, presented by Sugardale. The roster is fluid, but as we sit here right now, the Browns have their initial 53. Thanks to the new kicker, Andre Szmyt, for joining us. My name is Andrew Siciliano. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, your neighbors, whomever you want to about the Bark Tank. We'll see you next time.